2nd December 1902. The sudden coldness of the water hits me, brings me back to consciousness, and then takes my breath away. I feel heavy and struggle for the surface to take a breath of air into my lungs, but a weight keeps pulling me downwards. I realise I'm being enveloped by my gown around me. The river water soaking into the dress and the heavy undergarments pulling me further under like a boat with a pole, sinking into the abyss. I fight, but my lungs are hurting. Instinct forces my mouth open and water, dirty, muddy river water rushes in instead of life-saving air. It's no use. Further and further into the darkness, the desperation for air, my arms and legs fighting for my freedom, my life, and my realisation that I am losing the battle. As my energy leaves me and my life starts to ebb, my thoughts of Andrew and a life never started, dreams never fulfilled, no children, no us, no heaven's homestead.
Thank you, Kirsty. Also, Kirsty's brother Daniel is responsible for the beautiful cover on this wonderful book, Heaven's Homestead. So, hello everyone, welcome. I'm Michael Young from Ava Orion Media. That's us down there. I'm Faye's editor and publisher. I've been doing this for 7 years now, and Heaven's Homestead is the 28th book that I've managed to help get out there into the world. I do proofreading, editing, writing, designing, and self-publishing. Now, the reason that I do this is because I believe in the power of our words. The power to move people, the power to change the world, and the power to create the future. As creative people, we usually have a fear of rejection that we continually need to break through and overcome. The process usually starts with a writer taking the very brave step to hand over their story to me, to trust me with their words and allow me into the secret world that they have created and only they know. Without fail, I have been engaged and excited by what I've been offered, and then the magic happens. That excitement encourages them and pushes them forward until finally their dream is realised. They are holding in their hands their own self-published book. Now, I'm very proud to have been a part of creating the book that we're here to celebrate and launch today, Heaven's Homestead. And let's welcome a wonderful author, Faye Lockwood. So we're going to ask a few questions and we're going to talk about the book. And Faye's going to read a chapter from the book. There were so many chapters to choose from. We were wondering which one, but we'd come to a conclusion. So, as I said, thank you all for being here today. So, Faye, start us with the journey of this book and when it started till today.
Yeah, well, this book was actually the first one that I actually wrote. And it started out as a play. I was going to go from writing children's pantomimes and plays into a monologue, and as Kirsty just read, telling a story through the characters, their monologues. And then it sort of grew a little bit more, and I thought, well, I better have an outline. And then from there, it got bigger, and then I went, maybe I'll try a novella. And then I think we were coincidence that we sort of came on the scene, and then we sort of, and then it just kept growing from there. And it actually started when travelling with Paul for his band, and the boys were playing up on the border. and I was fascinated by this old bridge that was on the Murray at Cobram, Barooga. It was one of those old drawbridges, and for anyone who remembers, or old enough to remember, I'm sure you would, some of you, the movie All the Rivers Run, or the series, and the paddle steamers and the stories around their lives going on down. And this bridge reminded me of that series growing up. And so I just was standing on the bridge one day and we were heading out back after the gig with the kids. And this story just started forming, sort of thing, and it went from there. And within probably about a fortnight later, I had, okay, this is going to happen, and started researching the bridge. And so with a lot of with these stories and other ones that I've got coming, I pick an event around either personal event or like a bridge event of an opening, and my mind starts weaving sort of stories around it. And I think the first time you read it, when you just had a quick glance over it, you actually thought it was a real story. I had a few people who said, was this real? And I'm like, the only thing that's real in it is the day the bridge opened. The rest of it is all pure storytelling. And I think as I went with it, I wanted to involve my family history. With my mum being from England, and she came out as a child, but my dad's side came out here in the 1850s. And they settled as farmers up in Newcastle Maitland area, which coincidentally we also found out you're from.
Yes, I'm from Maitland.
So it was like we kept going in those circles. And my dad's family to this day are still farmers. Kirsty grew up in the region where my grandmother was born, and her grandmother was born, and they're still farming to this day. And so yes, it's about the Stevens family, which is my dad's mum's maiden name. I decided to use that, and I wove a story about their journey, this family's journey to Australia, coming out here for a new start after tragedy, and then from there, what it was like adjusting from farming in Britain to farming in Australia, which is very different. And along the way, you know, the stories of how hard it was to live on the land, medical things that we just didn't have back then, and the loss that we lost so many young. At the same time, I was using my own journey of what was going on in my life at the time for Molly. So Molly's very much a snippet of my time at one point. You know, a mum who's becoming an empty nester, trying to navigate that, and then a grandmother passing away and clearing out her home. And in that case, it wasn't so much my grandmother had passed away, it was my grandfather and my grandmother was going into a home, and we were cleaning out her house and finding, you know, little secrets and things you didn't know about your family along that way. And so it leads Molly on that journey to find out how she's related to the family that settled up in Barooga and farm the land up that way. So that's been going for a long time. I think we worked it out. Paul played up there probably about 8 years ago, and then I kind of got stuck and I couldn't write anymore on it. And this one came into my mind when I was researching Paul's family history, and that one took on a life of its own. And I think it was yourself that turned around and said, you know what, we don't have to do this one first. If that one's ready, we produce that one. So today we get to release, and everyone gets to have they've all got their copies, thank you, of the first one I actually wrote, that I went back to after finishing this one and expanded on my characters and the storyline, and it also has snippets that relate the two books together. And my third one will be the same. It'll relate back to these ones as well.